was waiting. I thought it was actually belly dancing music, but I have Ashkenazi ears. It turns out this is authentic Bukharian dance music. This is what I was told. This evening's presentation, first of all, I just want to thank CHAZAQ, Building a Stronger Future, and the Eshel Avram Organization for the Advancement of Jewish Knowledge as being my two sponsors tonight. I also want to say that this is in memory of Netze ben Sarah and Yair Netze ben Tzipora. I just also want to add specifically tremendous hakaras hatov to the Nissanian, the whole family. Is Avram here?
No, he's in Israel.
Oh, he's in Israel, okay. They've always been my biggest sponsors here in this part of the world. And I think this is our 5th year, if I'm not mistaken, that we're doing this. And it's meaningful to me, first of all, because of the wonderful audience that you give me a chance to speak to, and also because your family is very special. And I still have big plans for Maria, but this is a little too public over here. So I just want to again thank everyone for coming here this evening. The snow is coming down strongly over here. We're heading for our 3rd Snowmageddon for the season. And I think it's very appropriate, Rosh Chodesh Adar, I'm going to speak about something I've never spoken about before. I want to focus on one person and one person only, and that's Esther. So tonight's share is going to be about the female hero of the month of Adar, is Esther. But before I do that, as is my custom, I would like to tell a story. Is it okay? I'm called Beseder. I'm going to tell a story. This summer, I was planning to work for NCSY like I normally do when I got a phone call from Miriam Schreiber in Chicago, and she asked me the following question. She says, do I know, by chance, a scholar that is an expert on Spain? That was the question that I got. I asked, why do you want to know? Well, we're taking full busloads of people to Spain from England, from Belgium, but mainly from the New York area and from North America. And we have Rabbi Menachem is the incredible speaker. He's a great Maggid. But we need a scholar. We need someone, you know, an intelligent person who can answer dates and can give us information. So I asked her, how much are you paying? And she told me. I said to her, for that kind of money, I can be a scholar. So you're supposed to laugh. It's a joke. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, so Nina's laughing. But the point is that she told me, what do you know about Spain? I says, just trust me. The next week, I spent in the library. I was learning up my Spain, all my information. I have my own unique way of memorizing things. And basically, for example, 7-Eleven. Okay, this is where you go to get your food. 7-Eleven. That's the invasion of the Almohads into southern Spain. And basically, things like that. 12:15. That's lunchtime. Basically, that's how my mind works. It's connected to food. So we have everything worked out. Everything's worked out perfectly. I'm going to fly to Brussels, and from Brussels I'm going to fly to Seville. And the group is going to meet me in Seville. They're coming south. They've been to Morocco. They're going to be Shabbat in Gibraltar, and they're going to meet me in Seville. So everything's worked out. It's Sunday lunch. I arrive in Seville in southern Spain. I'm all excited, and I'm dressed like this, I'm going to meet these very, very elegant balabasim, these elegant people from North America and from Europe. And I'm going to show them Seville. I'm going to show them the Juderia, the Chuderia, the whole Jewish section. I'm all pumped up. I come out expecting to see my people, and there's nobody there. The place is empty. Now, this is a small, Friday I flew in accidentally to Philadelphia. I took the wrong plane, but we're talking a teeny-weeny little airport. You come out, there's no one there. I look around, there's no one there. I call up my contacts, nobody's answering. So, I don't speak Spanish. I'm feeling very much alone over here. No one's answering the phone. I don't know what to do. The time is going. It is about 40 degrees, about 110 degrees out there. It is sweltering hot. And there I am, with my hat, my jacket, the whole thing, looking very Jewish over there. I don't know what to do. And then finally I get a text message. The text message says the following words. It says, be at the Alhambra at 5 p.m. Do not kill Rabbi Krohn. Okay, those were the words. I had no idea what they meant, but I understood that they had been diverted. They were gone to the wrong city. They were not in Seville. They were in Granada, which is about 5 hours away. And I somehow had to get to Granada, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. So I go to the information, and the information says, well, you got two choices. You can go by, you've missed the train, but you can go by bus, or you can go by taxi. I said, how much is the taxi? They said it's about €600, about $1,000. Okay, I ain't paying no $1,000 to get to the Alhambra Palace. It's just not happening. So obviously I'm going to go by bus. How do you get to the bus? You take a taxi for €20 to the bus station, and there they've got buses. You'll know what to do. You know how to deal with a bus station. Okay, take a taxi to the bus station. I come out, and as I go into the bus station, I'm going back in time. And this is like something out of like an old Nacho Libre movie. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I'm back in the 1940s over there. This is not Penn Station. I don't explain this to you. But this is something. This looks like I'm going back to some ancient Spanish little bus station, and I'm looking for information how to get to Granada. And I see a sign that says "Información." Okay, information. I figured it out. I wait in line, and eventually it's my turn. And you see this person. He's like staring at you with his huge boich. You see his stomach out like that. And he's looking at you, and he's half asleep. Like, what do you want? So I said to him, excuse me, sir, could you please tell me how I can find the bus to Granada? He's looking like that. He's just completely faceless. I said, excuse me, sir, could you please tell me how I can get to Granada? And I keep on doing this, and he says to me, no comprende inglés. Oh my gosh. This is information. You don't speak English? And then I remembered I'm in southern Spain. I mean, this is it. They haven't seen an English speaker over here. They certainly have not seen a Jew. I don't know what to do. So I figured, I'm smart. I'm going to look for a sign that says Granada. So I walk around, and there I see there's a sign that says Granada. And I figured this has got to be it. I'm just going to wait in line with everybody else. Maybe I'll catch a bus. I come along, and she does not speak English. But the point is, I have my little what's it called? The English-Spanish phrase book. I have it inside my pocket, so I take it out. And I said to her, ¿Dónde está la Plaza de Toros? No, that's wrong. That means where's the bullfight? Okay, no. So eventually, I find what I'm looking for. I asked her, how do you get... And then she starts speaking to me in English. It was like ridiculous. She says to me, there's no buses to Granada anymore. You just missed the last one. What do you mean just missed the last one? Well, the bus that's supposed to go is completely full. So you're not going to get it anyhow. The next bus is tonight at 8 o'clock in the evening. I said, please get... No, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. At this point now, I'm not exaggerating, at this point now, I feel completely and totally on my own. I have no idea what to do. I basically collapsed there right in the middle of the train station. There are tears in my eyes. It occurs to me there's no Jew within hundreds of miles of where I am. There are probably people here who have not yet been told that the Spanish Inquisition has been called off. And that's it. There's just going to be, I can imagine me, some crucifix there, and that's it. As the sun is going down, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. And then I do, because this is what I taught my students to do. What do you do in times of trouble? You daven to Hashem. You pray to God. So I pray to God. I said, Kodesh Baruch Hu, dear God, I need your help over here. I need you to figure out something for me. I need you to send me a miracle. So God sends me two. Okay, who are these two miracles? I'm listening to two young ladies speaking with an Australian accent, arguing with the same woman that I was spoken to 5 minutes ago, trying to get on the bus to Granada, and they're trying to be very pushy to get on, and they're not successful. But it occurs to me that maybe they know, they're backpackers, they know more about it. They speak a little bit of Spanish over here. I went up to them, I said, hi, I just, by chance, I overheard you. Maybe you have some kind of idea how we can get to Granada. So they said, we're just going to take the 8 o'clock bus. So I said, that's not good for me. So he says, well, why don't you take a taxi? So I said, you're joking. Taxi is like €600. It's like ridiculous. It's not in my budget at all. So they looked at each other, and they smiled, and they says, here I think we can help you. They walked out of the bus station, They come back about 10 minutes later with this little Spanish guy, little mustache, Pedro. Okay, welcome to Pedro the pervert. Okay, this Pedro over here, I don't know what this guy wants. But this guy Pedro over here, he's taking us for 200 euro. And they said, this is it. This is it. He is agreeing to go for 1/3 of the price. I asked them, how did you pull this off? They said, it's a female thing. It was probably something to do with the fact that they were sneistically challenged. But the point is, this was happening. I'm now going with Pedro. These two young ladies insisted on coming along for the free ride. And the four of us are now going on this little adventure. We're crossing southern Spain. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a tremendous sense of humor. As I'm helping them with their backpacks and putting them into the back of the car, I notice one of them has a necklace that says on it, in Hebrew, the word Daniela. So I said to her, wow, did you get it in Israel? And she goes, yeah. She says, that's your name? And she goes, yeah. She says, you're Jewish? And she goes, yeah. And so is my friend Lauren. I say, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. Here I am, going to spend the next couple of hours with two college students from Australia who are Jewish. And they're not religious at all. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent them basically we're in the same car. This is incredible. And for the next 4 hours, it was mamish, it was incredible. It was tremendously, tremendously inspiring. They were very intelligent young ladies. And I said to them, you have to join us in the Alhambra Palace. When we get to Granada, you're going to have to join us. Myself, there's a Rabbi Pesach Krohn, he's a great speaker. You're going to meet Jews from all over the world. They agreed to join us. And what happened after that was simply magic. I just want to tell you, the story is still in process because we're still in touch with each other. I can't lie to you. I can't tell you that now, living your Yerushalayim, married to Kola guys. But, the beginnings are certainly there. What was incredible is that we went to the Alhambra Palace. The Alhambra Palace, I want to tell everyone over here, if you get a chance to go to Europe, if you get a chance to go to Israel and you can make a stop off, this is one of the most important places you have to see. The Alhambra Palace was built 1,000 years ago, and it was built during a period where the Jews were they were the kings of Granada. Granada was there was a Jew by the name of Shmuel HaNagid, and Shmuel HaNagid, he was a person who was the viceroy. He was the second in command of running Granada. How he got there, the whole thing, there's tremendous stories about him. And he was one of the masterminds in building this palace. And here I want to share with you, which is basically the introduction to my class. Here I want to share with you the first of 2 points that I learned about the Alhambra Palace. Now watch this. I want you to picture the scene. You have over here these 2 Australian girls. You got about 140 balabatim that suddenly all think they're in the Kira business. And we're going into this palace, and the palace is built by Shmuel HaNagid in circles. Okay, so you have the outer chamber, and it gets a little higher, a little higher, a little higher. And at the very top is the throne room. The throne room, when Granada was a superpower, you could wait days, maybe weeks, to get in to see the king. But if you went in to see the king, in those days the kings were called caliphs. If you would get in, that king had the power basically over the whole world. He had the power over everything. You would go in to the throne room, and you would see a throne. The throne was sunken into the wall, and behind the wall were dozens of little itsy-bitsy little holes, meaning the following thing. You could only see the king as the sun was setting behind the throne room. The lights coming from the sun, the setting sun, would go flashing into your eyes. And tell me if you can understand this. And try and picture the scene. You could see only bright light, but the king could see you perfectly. The king could see you, but you could see nothing. Now, what are you all thinking now? What? Oh, you're rushing over here. Lat, I'll teach you a word in Hebrew. Okay, 7. Okay, what do you? Every time you take 3 steps, This is what's happening over here. You see the metaphorical equivalent of the bright lights, but the king is watching you. The king is watching you directly. And you see the ancient kings, they understood this. The people don't get to see the king, but the king gets to see absolutely everything. Now, the story has not ended, but now I want to get back to Esther. It occurred to me really the last couple of months that I'd never really studied Esther. I've never really researched what's her story. What is unique about Esther? What is special about her? That in the month of Purim, everything is focused around her. Does it make sense that the Marranos were the hidden Jews in Spain, that their hero was Esther? The one thing that they all kept, like it was a unique and special mitzvah for the Marranos, was Tanit Esther, the fast of Esther. Does this make sense? I'll show you how it does make sense. And Esther's life was very similar to the suffering of the Marranos. Let's start at the beginning. Esther was born without a mother or a father. So we never think about that. She was born an orphan. The Me'am Loez says that she had a terribly difficult life. The Me'am Loez says, how do we know that she had a terribly difficult life? So he brings down, he's actually answering a question. The Me'am Loez wants to know, how come when Sarah Imenu went into the palace, Hashem immediately did miracles for her and took her out? But Esther was allowed to stay inside the palace. So Me'am Loez says that since she was an orphan, she had suffered so bitterly and so much in the youth. She never had the nurturing of a mother and father. She never had the love. She never had the singing of parents. She never had the building of the human soul that only parents know how to do. She never had that. Says the Me'am Loez, her whole life she was a broken woman. Her whole life she was a broken woman, which means that even when she was in the palace, all the temptations of the palace that were hers for the taking, she was the queen, for goodness sake. All the temptations did not interest her. She remained a woman with this sense of, I am broken. I just can read to you the words, some of you speak Hebrew. Libo shavu v'ratzutz v'im sovel galus v'tzar ad kidikach b'vadai liboi shavu v'ein chshash yavel degaiva, etc., etc. He says her heart was broken, it was torn apart. That's who she was. A woman that had gone through so much suffering in her youth. This is just for the younger crowd over here. I just thought about this in passing when I was preparing the class. The adults over here are vaguely aware that the last couple of years, teenage kids were reading a book about a fellow called Harry Potter. You heard of this? Okay, it's embarrassing so far, but you've probably heard of it. You can ask Maria, she could tell you great details. But the point is that it was an interesting thing that kids who never read books were suddenly reading not one, not two, but 7 books about a kid called Harry Potter. Who was Harry Potter? He was an orphan. Now, I'm not saying, I wasn't going to finish my sentence like Esther, okay? I'm not that stupid. But he was an orphan. Where did he live his younger years? Who remembers? There we go, okay? Abusive uncle and aunt, a bully stepbrother, whatever it was, step-cousin. He lives underneath the steps in a little closet. That's how he lives his youth. He is the victim of everything that an orphan has to go through. It's just by chance that his nemesis, this fellow called Voldemort, Yamach Shemo, right? Okay, Voldemort. So he's also an orphan. This is part of the thing. What J.K. Rowling had picked up on is that it's just a joke. It's just, gentlemen, just a joke. Okay. What was interesting is that J.K. Rowling had picked up on something that I want to get back to in about 20 minutes' time. And that is the following. Teenage kids today, a lot of them feel like they're victims. Anyone that knows a little bit about youth today, kids go through stuff. They go through all kinds of, can you get this over with? Okay, they go through all kinds of stuff that I think that earlier generations, certainly when I was growing up, the amount of pressures that they go to be able to be much more than they really are. They feel that they're always second-class citizens. They go through a system that is inbuilt with lack of self-esteem. So there's a lot to talk about this. There's a lot to explain why it is this way. When you read a story about Harry Potter, so suddenly you have your hero that's going through the same stuff as you. So I'm telling you this because lahavdil elef havdalah, so now I mean this very seriously, and Esther, Hamalka, she comes into this world as a victim, as someone who is trampled upon. She's an orphan without anything. She has one hope, and that is that her uncle will give her the love and the nurturing that will build her up into something powerful, which is of course what happened. She had an uncle. The uncle was Mordechai. Mordechai would actually go on, and halachically he would marry her, but he gave her everything in her early years to try and build her up. The point is that Mordechai was a master in building her up in Rochnius, but her physical situation could not be changed. Her life, from the beginning and unfortunately till the very end, was a life of physical bitterness, of physical difficulty. How does the story of Esther end up? And they all lived? No. And they all lived unhappily ever after. We forget that. The Purim does not end with a happy ending. The Talmud says that's the reason, according to one opinion, why we did not say the Hallel. The story ends that we all lived unhappily ever after. We all lived continuing to live in the Persian galut, in the Persian exile. Specifically Esther. Esther ends up the wife of this man Achashverosh. And the Talmud says it's a fallacy to think that Achashverosh was less bad than Haman. The only difference between Haman and Achashverosh is that Achashverosh had this facade that he was a king and that he was dignified and that he had to follow the rules. But he and Haman were two sides of the same coin. They were completely and totally in cahoots. But worse than that, for a woman of Esther's dignity and Esther's morality and Esther's tzniut, her modesty, what could be worse than spending the rest of your life with a man who is the king of the Persian Empire? What do we know about the Persian Empire? What does the Persian Empire symbolize? Some of you may have studied the works of the Maharal. He talks about the four empires. What do we talk about when we talk about what is Persia? Persia is sensuality. Persia is specifically in this area of promiscuity, of the evil of how to treat women. So the Persians were the worst nation that the world has ever seen. The Maharal says everything the Romans did, they learned from the Persians. If you are the king of Persia, it means you're the centerpiece of this evil. And you take a perfect Beis Yaakov girl, you take a woman who is the ultimate sanua, the ultimate in modesty, and you send her to live with the extreme opposite. You cannot get in human form a more perverted person than Achashverosh. And that's how she ends up her life. That's how the whole thing goes. So what did Mordechai teach Esther? Mordechai teaches Esther how to cope. So I'm not going to lie to you. I found this today. I was so excited when I found this midrash. This midrash is fascinating. The opening words where we are introduced to the woman Esther in the Megillah is the following. Vayehi, we're talking about Mordechai, Omen es Hadassah. He Esther bas Dodo. What does the word Omen mean?
Babysit.
What? Babysit. That's good. Okay, babysit. He took care of her. Exactly. Now, the word omen comes to the word ima. It's a perfect thing. Fascinating. The Midrash says the first word that Mordechai taught Esther was the word amen. How does the Midrash know to say this? Because the word omen should appear with the letter yud. Excuse me, with the letter vav. It should be aleph, vav, mem, nun. But it's not. It's aleph, mem, nun, which you can read as amen. Vayihi, amen. Es Hadassah. He taught Hadassah to say the word Amen. So I'm thinking to myself, what's the big deal? I'm not showing off. Bli Ain Hara. I have many kids, Bli Ain Hara. every single one of them, I can say their first word was Amen. Maybe their second words. The first was probably like, feed me, I'm hungry, something like that. But the point is, the first word that I had taught them was the word Amen. You take them to the Beit Knesset, you take them to the synagogue, the first word is Amen. So what's the big deal? That Mordechai taught Esther the word Amen. And I think the answer is very clear. The first word you say is your essence. Esther was the essence of the word Amen. What does the word Amen mean? The word Amen begins with the letter Aleph, which is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The Mem and the Nun are the middle letters of the Aleph base. How do we know this? Because there's two ways of reading the alphabet. It depends where you put the Sofi letters. So one system has the Mem as the middle, the other with the Nun in the middle. But there's no Taf. The word Emes means you see the beginning, you see the middle, and you see the end. But the word Amen means you see the beginning, you see the middle, but you have no clue whatsoever where this is going. Do you understand what I'm saying over here? Okay, this is a very deep idea. Esther's whole life would be Amen. This is Emunah. You see the beginning, you see the middle, but you don't see where this is going. Just by the way, there's a lot of ladies over here. The Zohar brings down that women are compared to Emunah and men are compared to Emet. What does that mean? So the Zohar is referring to the idea that women will work incredibly hard to support their husbands to study Torah. With the emunah, that in the world to come, they will get the same reward as their husbands. So the husband studies Talmud, and he can taste a little bit of what it means, a taste of the world to come, in his studies. But the woman who's supporting him, all she has is the emunah. She sees the beginning, she sees the middle, she has no idea where this is going. So now we know Esther has this power. Esther translates her emunah into two things. Into closeness to God in her thoughts and closeness to God in her lips. And this brings her to be one of the 7 female prophets. Nuvuah for a female is through what's called hitbodedut, through self-introspection, and through tefillah, and through the power of prayer. This is a woman that has nothing. This is a woman that has suffered from the moment she's born. And she focuses on God from the moment she wakes up to the moment she goes to sleep until she achieves this incredible thing called Nuvuah. She gets prophecy. And this is her source of nourishment. This is her source of strength. I have over here, Ilgosis from Ma'am Loez. It's so beautiful that this was not her real name. When we say Esther, it was not her real name. Her real name was what? Hadassah. Why was she called Hadassah? There's many different beautiful ideas. One of the things about Hadassah is that the Hadass plant, the willow, if you smell it, you don't really get the smell. And again, Achina Sfaradim, I'm talking here from the Ashkenazi viewpoint, they always try, if they can use Hadassim for Havdalah, it's considered a Hidur. I don't know if it's like that in this community. I know in Yerushalayim it's that way. They always look for Hadass for Havdalah. Why? Because if you smell it, you don't really get the full flavor. If you scratch in it, if you go like this, the shafshef, then suddenly, poof, out comes the smell. Hadass symbolizes that the power of the beauty of its smell, it has to be accessed. And the idea is that Esther, like the Marranos, she could pretend that she was a sophisticated Persian woman. And that's how she came across. Everyone that watched her would not have a clue that this was a incredibly powerfully deep prophetess in the Viyah. But she was a Hadass. Externally, there was not much there. But internally, she was completely and totally and absolutely connected to Hashem on every level. That's what this midrash that the Ma'am Loez is telling us. Her Hadass is an external fake that she was just an ordinary person, but deep down, she was pnimi ad hasof. I just want to share with you, just in passing, I had the merit to study for many years under a man called Shlomo Wolbe. He wrote the Sefer Alei Shor. Some of you may have heard of it. He was one of the greatest thinkers of the last generation. He used to tell us the following. I heard this from many, many times. I wish I could say that I can relate to this incredibly high level. I know that he lived his life this way. I know he has students that live their lives this way. This is something that we can aspire to. He said one of the hardest things that we have to do, and he said we have to do this, is to work on being a hadas. He didn't use those words, but this is what he meant. What does it mean to be a hadas? You always have to look normal. That's what he said. You always have to look normal, but in the inside there should be nothing normal about you. The example he gave, again, don't try this in your own backyard. This is a very high level. He used to tell his male students, he says he doesn't think that it's good when young yeshiva students, they walk in the streets and they take off their glasses. They shouldn't look at something they should not look at. Why? Because it's going to create bizarre behavior, and he doesn't think it's good that yeshiva students should look strange. He doesn't want that secular Jews should look at the yeshiva students and say, oh, these people are weird. They're bumping into lampposts and saying, excuse me. This is not what he wanted. So what did he say? He said you have to train yourself to have certain questions that you push aside for when you're walking in the streets. And then when you leave your home, you kiss your mezuzah, and then you start to focus on that question. And you should be completely normal on the outside, and your mind, you train your mind to be thinking about something deeper that will keep you off all distractions. This is what he demanded. He demanded that we should be a hadas. We should be an Esther. On the outside, you're with the people. On the outside, you're relatable to. On the inside, pnimi, pnimi, pnimi. You are the deepest of the deep. You're connected to God the whole time. I'm going to share with you an unbelievable comment from the Vilna Gaon. But before I do that, I just want to say one more thing about Esther. Esther was extraordinarily beautiful. According to one opinion, she was extraordinarily beautiful. Where did she get her beauty from? Just by chance? We don't know anything about her parents. Could be her mother was beautiful, we don't know. So the Midrash brings down the source of her extreme beauty is because she was born where? Where was she born? Yerushalayim. Okay? She was born in Yerushalayim. So I'm a little biased because I live in Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim had 10 portions of beauty were given to the world. Yerushalayim had 9 of them. It's the famous Gemara in Bava Metzia, Memtet. It brings down 10 portions of beauty were given to the world. Yerushalayim took 9 of them. Let me translate it to you in simple words. Yerushalayim took all 10. Yerushalayim is the essence of beauty, but the rest of the world got their meiser money. Got that 10%. The rest of the world got that last 10%. But Be'etzem, Yofi is from Yerushalayim. Esther was a Yerushalmi girl. She was a Jerusalemite. And she got her beauty from Yerushalayim. Now I want to make my own comment over here. If we could go back in time, just over 2,000 years, we could walk to the Beit Mikdash, Erev Pesach, what would we see?
From Pesach?
Yeah, you'd see them slaughtering lambs. Okay, now I don't know, could be there are people over here probably on this side who would enjoy seeing blood spilling out of the neck of a little shepsel, of a little lamb. But the way the Talmud describes it, that towards the end there were so many lambs being slaughtered that they were wading around ankle deep in blood. And you can see this in exaggeration. But the point, it was not a pretty sight. And I don't think that I would be considered out of place if I would say to you that there were probably, could be more physically, more beautiful buildings. Maybe in Greece, maybe in Alexandria. Could be there were other more beautiful buildings. The beauty of Yerushalayim was not an external beauty. When you came in, you wouldn't. I don't know if the Jewish temple would win contests for architecture. Maybe yes, maybe no. We believe in external beauty, but the point is that's not the point. The external beauty has to take you to an inner beauty, and what Yerushalayim had in the most powerful, extraordinary way was this inner beauty. And whenever we talk about the Imahot, for example, being beautiful, it's their external beauty would bring you in to something beyond. You would see a pnimi beauty that was just incredible, sensational. And she had that beauty. She had Yerushalmi beauty. She had Mitzion Michlal Yofi. She had that beauty of Tzion inside of her. And everyone that looked at her face could see this inner spiritual beauty. Now, watch this. The Vilna Gaon wants to bring out how pnimi, how deep, how powerful was the nevuah of Esther. So, everyone loves this scene. Everyone loves this scene. Esther has finally got together the two evil people, Achashverosh, who was the source of all the problems, and Haman, who was actually carrying these things out. So, really, Achashverosh is like Hitler, and Haman is basically the people running the concentration camps. That's the way that the Torah, the Talmud, actually gives us this perspective. He is the brains, Achashverosh is the brain, Haman is basically the whipping rod. And then, Achashverosh, as the story unfolds, says the following words. Who is this person that is causing you so much problems? And the Talmud brings down that she puts up her finger and she points to Achashverosh and says, Ish, Tsar, V'oyev. And she's pointing to Achashverosh. And then the angel comes along and goes, whoa, and makes the finger point at Haman. It's the famous Talmud. The Talmud brings it. Everyone knows this story. It's a great scene. Stop and think and ask yourself, hello, Esther, are you out of your mind? You've been working on this for so long. You've been building up for this moment. You are trying to save the Jewish people. The moment has come when you can point at Haman and bring him down, and you point at Achashverosh. How do you do that? How could you at the crucial moment let yourself down? This is called Merida B'Malchus. This is called you have undermined the king. You should be put to death for that alone. An angel has to do a miracle and go like this and make you point at Haman. What's going on over here? Says the Vilna Gaon. Says the Vilna Gaon. Now we get a glimpse into how great Esther was. Do you understand that Esther was a prophetess her whole life? She was focused on one thing and one thing only, and that was God. From the moment she woke up to the moment she went to sleep, she was God obsessed. Everything was a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Everything was Dveikut, was connection to God, thinking about God, praying to God. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the essence of the essence of the essence. Now the king is saying to you, who is the source of all the problems? So she's thinking the king, well that's the King of Kings. That's Hashem. Hashem is asking me, who is the source of all your problems? And he points to Achashverosh, because the Talmud said that Achashverosh was the source of all the Jews' problems, not Haman. So the Vilna Gaon is saying is that she perfected a life that was so hadas, that externally she would be doing what she was doing, but internally she was talking to God to the point that these two worlds would sometimes get mixed up. And the Vilna Gaon says that she lost her focus. She was thinking that God was asking him, and she was talking to God like she was in the middle of her prayers. We get a little bit of a glance of the kedusha, of the holiness of a woman who had come from the bottom of the bottom, who had the hardest life ever, who would continue to have a hard life. But her mind is focused on one thing and one thing only, that's Hashem. And Hashem, and Hashem, and nothing else except for Hashem. What was Esther's name? What does it mean, Esther? What does it mean she was called Esther? We just mentioned her name was Hadassah. That was her real name. Why was she called Esther? Who here knows? The Talmud asked this question. The Talmud in Chulin, Kuf Lamed Tes Lamed Beis, asked the question, Esther min haTorah minayim. What kind of question is that? The what? What kind of question is that? Esther min haTorah minayim. You don't find Shmuel min haTorah minayim. You don't find David min haTorah minayim. What does it mean, Esther min haTorah minayim? Where do you find Esther's essence in the Torah? Where do you find her roots in the Torah? What was her spiritual nourishment? So the Talmud answers, it's a pasuk in Parshas Vayelech, Va'anoichi Astir Panai. I will go and hide my face. So what does it mean? The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to die, the Jewish people are going to go off the derech, and then I'm going to go hidden. Esther's essence was that she symbolized a Jewish people where God is missing, where God is hidden. That's what she's all about. She's living a world with so much tsar, so much problems, so many suffering that she's going through. But God is not there. Her essence was she was an Esther. Hashem was hidden for her. I'm going to take this a whole level deeper. I'm going to read to you now a pasuk. It's the last verse in chapter 3 of the story of Megillah Esther. I have to tell you, if you would say, Menachem Nissel, what is the most difficult verse in the whole Torah to understand? If you would say, from the beginning of Parashas Bereshis to the end of Divrei Hayamim, find me a verse that is such a puzzle that you don't know how to begin to deal with such a verse. I want to say it to you. This is the end of chapter 3 in the book of Esther. And I quote, V'hamelech, who's the king? Who's the king? Kadosh Baruch Hu is Hashem. V'hamel, v'haman. And the king and Haman, Yashvu lishtais. They sit down and they drink. Make a l'chaim. Couple of vodkas together. Hamelech v'Haman, Yashvu lishtais. Va'ir Shushan, Navaycha. The city Shushan are perplexed. What is going on? God and Haman, who's the great-great-great-grandson, 20 generations from Esav, 20 generations minus 3 from Amalek, with Hashem. They're like this. They're drinking together. Yayin, wine, brings people together. Hashem and Haman have a chibur, they have a connection. What is going on? That's the end of chapter 3. What happens in chapter 4? You all know your story. Chapter 4 is the story of prayer. I like that parak. I teach tefillah. Parak Dalet of Esther. So the Jewish people go crazy. Hamelech v'Haman yashu lishtais. The Melech takes off his ring and says, here, you can have it. It's in your hands. And every single Jew is condemned to death. And the Persian Empire is setting itself up that every single Jew alive will be numbered and accounted for and will have his own personal Nazi to kill him on the 13th of Adar of that year. They're all going to die. No one's going to escape. There's no place to escape. You will be tracked down. Every single Jew will have his own personal murderer. It's finished. It's all over with. Chapter 4, Sak ve'efer, sackcloth and ashes. The Jewish people are crying. The Jewish people are praying. The Jewish people are going back to their roots, and they are pouring their hearts out to their Creator to revoke the decree. At the very end of chapter 4, Mordechai turns to Esther and says, look, the situation is impossible. You have managed to remain hidden this whole time, but now you're going to have to step forward. And Esther says, I cannot, because stepping forward is an instant death sentence. I do not stand a chance. And Mordechai says, well, who knows? Maybe this is the moment that all of history has been waiting for. Maybe this is your moment. And she says, tell the Jewish people, for 3 days they should fast for me. And for 3 days, everyone is fasting, including Esther and all her servants. And after 3 days, you turn into chapter 5, which is the key chapter. The key chapter is chapter 5. 5 and 6, okay? 6 is the Nafachu already. In chapter 5, Esther says, I'm going in. I'm going into the palace. I'm going on my suicide mission. And this is basically the centerpiece of Esther, everything she has been working on throughout her whole life. What does Esther do? How am I going to manage? How am I going to survive? She's been fasting for 3 days. Her external beauty is basically gone. She looks gaunt. She looks broken. She's falling apart. She has no physical strength. One thing she has had her whole life, what is that? She has Hashem. That's the one thing she has. Vatilbash Esther Malchus. The Talmud brings down that Malchus is the Ruach HaKodesh, and she fills herself with closeness to Hashem, with prayers on her lips, and she's going in. She's going into the palace. And she comes in, and the guards look at her, and then they know she's the queen. And they look at each other, and they wink at each other, they start laughing. This woman's crazy. Señora es loco. She is not going to make it. And they let her go through. And she walks in. And as she walks in, she sees the palace is filled with idols. And then, as she sees the idols, and she realizes this place is steeped with tumah, with idol worship, at that moment, the Shekhinah, the heavenly spirit, departs from her. God abandons her. God walks away from her, and she is completely and totally on her own. And she screams out, and she cries, Keli, Keli, lama azavtani. My God, why have you abandoned me? Why have you done this to me? But she can run back if she wants. She can turn around and flee. She has that choice to save her life. But this is not what Esther is made of. Esther moves forward. And every step she takes, she's feeling weaker and weaker. And every step she takes, she feels she cannot make it. And she finds yet another bit of strength inside of her to move another inch, and another inch, and another inch, to get closer to that hall where the king is waiting, with all their hundreds of people that surround him. She has to make it to that hall. She has to make it to that inner chamber. But her body is slowly but surely falling apart on her. And the Shekhinah has abandoned her. And at that point then, Esther has become every single Jew in history that has felt abandoned by God. At that point then, Esther becomes that Jew that is being kicked by a Nazi, a Jew that is being abused by Christians and by crusaders and by inquisitioners, a Jew that is being beaten up by Arabs on a bus, or a bus blows up from a suicide bomber, and the suffering that the Jews go through, all the suffering of the Jewish people. Where's Hashem? Where's Hashem at that moment? The Jewish people feel on their own. But Esther insists on moving forward. And she moves another inch, and another inch. And she goes through another door. And she's going forward. And all the guards are looking at her, and they're laughing at her. And the Shekhinah has never felt so far away from her as it feels at that moment then. What does she do? She keeps on pushing. She keeps on pushing. At that moment, Esther has become every single Jew. And I imagine a lot of people in this room, if you don't directly connect, then you know people who connect. Every single person who prays to God and feels, where are you? Keli, Keli, lama azavtani. You work with older singles, and those young women are praying to Hashem every single day, find me my shidduch. And Hashem abandons them. Hashem says no. Hashem disappears. And then they are abandoned. People, for example, you see married women who cry to me, and sometimes I hear it from the men as well, that they thought they had married the right person, that turned out it was not the right person. And they turn to God and say, should we get divorced? What should we do? And they go through so much suffering. That's who Esther is now. Esther becomes every single woman that feels she doesn't know what to do, every man that feels they don't know what to do. But she keeps pushing. Esther becomes those couples that cannot have children, and they cry to Hashem, like the Imos, to give me a child, and Hashem says no. Esther becomes those that do have children, and they pray to God every day to raise their children in the Torah way, but they don't see it. Kids become teenagers, and you've lost them, and they cry to God, and they don't know where their children are at night. That suffering of those parents is what Esther was going through. She was holding inside of her all the pain of all the past generations and future generations of Jews inside the palace, but God has disappeared. Esther becomes those people that are suffering from sickness, and the doctors don't know how to treat those people. Or never parents that have a child that is going through terrible, terrible suffering, and they don't have a clue what to do, and they turn to Hashem, and it's just getting worse. And sometimes the children do not survive. Esther is those parents, those children, those sick people. She's all of those people. How can an angel, how can a malach ever understand the suffering of Jews? These are not my words. These are the words of the H. Kodesh. In Warsaw, through all the suffering. He said, can a malach ever understand the humiliation, the pain, the suffering that Jews go through? How can a malach understand what it's like for an adult male who is proud, who supports his wife and children, to get a piece of paper that you have been fired? Will a malach ever understand that pain? Will a malach ever understand what these people are going through? They're all Esther. That's who it is. Esther is the one where Hashem has become Va'anochi Aster es Panai. But she keeps on pushing him. And she keeps on pushing. And there she sees the doors of the inner chamber. She feels she wants to collapse. She feels she has no strength. She moves another inch, another inch, another inch. And then finally, with her last bit of strength, she opens up the door. And she goes in, she sees hundreds of people. The place is filled with laughter. The place is filled with merriment. This is the royal courtyard, the royal centerpiece. And then there's hushed silence. And everyone turns and stares at her body, which is feeble, which is fading, which has lost its beauty. And they realize the queen has come in defiance of the king. And the king looks around and he understands what's happened, and he realizes he's been humiliated by his own wife. And Achashverosh, who is a man of a tremendous temper, his face is filled with anger, his face turns bright red, there are fumes coming out of his nostrils, he is filled with rage. And everyone knows what's going to happen next. And Haman is laughing. They're going to see a spectacle. Vashti and now Esther. And he raises his scepter. And then something incredible happens. Everyone's watching. And they don't understand how this is happening. But the scepter is starting to get longer and longer on its own. And Achashverosh is holding on to this. His hands, he doesn't know what's going on over here. And the scepter is moving on its own like a snake. Towards who? Towards Esther. The one thing that can save Esther, according to Persian law, is if the scepter touches her. And the scepter keeps on moving and moving until it touches her shoulder. Then Achashverosh understands this is not in his hands. And his face turns from deep anger to a face filled with love. And he turns to Esther and says, my beloved wife, what is that you want? Why did you come here? Up to half of my kingdom and I give it to you. At that moment, the king Achashverosh is no longer the king Achashverosh. At that moment, the king Achashverosh has transformed into the king of kings. And the king of kings looks at Esther and says, Esther, you are the Jewish people. You are all the suffering of past generations and of future generations. Esther, to you I say the following words. What can I give you? Half of my kingship, which means you will be my partner in Tikkun Olam, in fixing the whole world. You and I, You have half, I have half. We are together. And the King of Kings looks at Esther right in the eye and says, the moment of Geulah, the moment of your salvation has finally arrived. The Holy Sforno, on that verse, V'anochi aster es panai, tells us that everyone reads these words incorrectly. When God says, I will hide my face, it does not mean he will run away. It means he's right there all along. He is the proverbial footprints in the sand. He's there right along. It's just that you can't see him. He's hidden to you, but he is looking at you. He is the king in the Alhambra palace that can see everything. But to you, he's completely hidden. You just see the light. You don't see what's going on. My teacher, my Rebbe in Yerushalayim, Rav Moshe Shapiro Shlita, he often says the following words. He said, if God would take away the mask, just a teeny bit, if we could see a drop more of what Hashem is doing behind the scenes, if we could go behind the veil and see what's really happening, just a teeny weeny bit more, we would instantly lose our free choice. Our Bechira would go. There would be nothing left. You know what he means? He means if we could understand what Hashem was doing right there in Auschwitz, and right there in Treblinka, and right there in Majdanek, so we would lose our free choice. Our tears, our anger, our questions would turn around into laughter. But that laughter is something that we will not get. We will not get until the final Geulah has arrived. It's so beautiful. Every Rosh Hashanah, every Yom Kippur, we walk into God. We walk into God and we ask Him, I want answers to my questions. What's the first word that belongs to the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur prayers? Do you know what it is? Ovachein. Ovachein. Tein pachtecha. Ovachein. Tein ka. That word ovachein comes from where? Says the Avodram, the great Spanish thinker, the Avodram, who came from the city of Seville. Ovachein. We invoke the words of Esther. We become Esther with our faith, our emunah, with our deep conviction that Hashem seems to have abandoned us, but He's always much closer than we ever think. He's really there for us all along. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to have the strangest of all the Chagim is Purim. And Purim, externally, is the furthest of what's happening internally. Purim is the holiest of holiest. On the outside, we're wearing our masks. On the outside, we're laughing, we're having fun. But that's not the point of Purim. Purim is that everything is a mask. Just a little bit deeper. Inside that Hamantaschen, behind that mask, behind all the secrets that's going on, is the closest of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that came out in the Purim story. So I want to finish off with something personal for everyone over here. We're going now through a whole month called the month of Adar. And every single one of us has Esther inside of us. We've all got that Esther. Every person over here, if not directly you, then people very close to you. There's not a single person over here who doesn't have someone that you love deeply, who's not hurting, who's not going through Esther. And how is it that this month, Dafka this month is the month of Mishenichnas Adar Marvin B'Simcha. In this month, you increase Simcha. This is the month of Esther. Where's the Simcha? Where's the joy in this whole journey? And the answer is because the festival of Purim has taught us one thing. that those moments when God has abandoned you, really He's there for you all along. He's never left you. We just don't see Him. He's there for you all along. When you know that Hashem is there for you all along, that is the source. That focusing that in all the pain that I'm going through, and all the suffering that we go through, really Hashem is very close. That's the marbim b'simcha. The whole year round, there has to be simcha. And Av goes down. But in Adar, it goes up. You know why it goes up? Because then we suddenly get it. Everything is a facade. Everything is not real. All we have to do is go one step deeper. And we see Hashem is holding our hands. We see Hashem is closer than ever before. So I want to conclude by giving us all a little bracha. I still have I've changed my clothes since I got off the plane from Yerushalayim. But a little bit, the scent of Jerusalem comes with me. Yerushalayim HaKodesh, the source of all the beauty in this world. And with that, I give you the bracha. This month should be a month of simcha. You should feel Hashem's closeness. But when we get to Purim, and hopefully even before that, Hashem should take away that mask and show that love. And show that love that He gave to Esther when He put out His scepter and said to Esther, Ad Chatzia Malchut, you are my partner. Together we will fix the world. Together we will bring the Geula Shalema. May we all merit to see this speedily in our days. Thank you very much.